Lowa had organised a few days of competitions, eating and drinking, to mark the victory over the Dumnonians and the beginning of her reign with something that people would remember. More than that, she wanted her newly appointed captains, Atlas Agrippa, Carden and Caro, Mal and Nita Fletcher, and more, to see others' abilities and choose their own officers. Even more than that, perhaps, she wanted a break from the mind-knottingly tiresome and convoluted arse-ache of running a realm. Zadar had left her with 1,000 problems, not least how to reduce the crippling taxes that he'd claimed from tribes under his boot, and free all the slaves he'd collected, while still feeding, housing, and arming the army. The obvious answer would have been to disband the army for a few moons at least, but that wasn't an option. Even if the druids, including Spring, hadn't all insisted that the Romans were coming, she still had the Mercans in the north to ward off. If they heard that Maidun was unprotected, they'd be on her like a starving dog on a dropped bucket of offal. But they didn't matter so much. The Romans were coming, and she had to be ready. The Dumnonians' reparations would begin to plug the hole left by the removal of Zadar's evil income, but not nearly enough. She should have demanded more. She could feel the party atmosphere humming from Maidun camp, even that early in the day. The network of muddy tracks that linked the makeshift sheds and tents of the camp's ever-growing population, another problem she had to deal with, was even thicker than usual, with people running hither and thither with cauldrons, sacks of food, weapons, barrels of booze, and all the other equipment essential for a day of games. On the flat land over to the west, the football tournament had already started, with teams of 10 trying to kick an inflated bladder past the other team and into a goal bucket. She'd never been a fan of football herself, or any other team game for that matter. She saw Drustan emerge from the throng and head towards her across the open land surrounding the castle. She hadn't seen him since after the battle on Sarum Plain, when she'd sent him away with Carden, Ragnall, and a squad to free slaves from the ports and holding camps dotted around Zadar's territory. "Lowa, might I have a word?" said the druid. Surely Queen Lowa would have been more appropriate, she thought, but at least he hadn't shouted "Oi" at her from a distance, like Spring had the day before. "The slaves," she said without breaking stride, "most of them are at home or on the way there," Drustan said, following. He had to half-jog to keep up with her. "A few are too injured or sick to move, so I left those in situ, as well as a few to look after them. That's not why I need to talk to you. Please, can you stop walking? I do not want others to hear this." Lowa stopped. They were on the track down from Maidun Castle, perhaps 30 paces from the edge of the camp, and the crowds, near where Lowa had crawled for hours, climbed into the castle and been caught by Drustan on her way to assassinate Zadar. Funny, she thought, how time could move on so dramatically while geography stayed the same. There were a few flapping ears on the road, so Lowa walked off it and leant on the rough wooden fence of a corral. A few horses sauntered over, with muzzles raised in. "How about plucking some of that better grass on your side of the fence for me?" inquiry. She ignored them. "I heard about your agreement with Bruxon and the Dumnonians," said Drustan, leaning on the fence next to her. "Oh, yes?" she asked, pushing away the nose of her persistent horse. The druid paused for an almost awkwardly long time, then said, "You made a mistake." "Oh?" said Lowa. "And what would you have done? Executed all the able-bodied Dumnonians so that their crops rotted in the fields and the young and elderly starved? Or taxed them into weakness and starvation? We'll need the Dumnonians fighting well and willingly on our side." "We will, which is why we need to know what they're doing and why leverage over them would have been useful. You should have appointed their king, or at least forced a few